Hello everyone, it's Tanja from Tanja Kraus Horsemanship with you, and welcome to Monday Night Live. I'm going to give it a couple of minutes, as I always do, for Facebook to let everybody know that I'm live at the moment, and send it out into the world of the internet to let all you guys know that we're here. And as you start to join the live feed, please let me know that you're here by clicking one of the icon buttons or saying hello or something like that, just so I know that I've got people with me and we can start getting started. I want to, while we're waiting for everyone to join, hey Abby, how you going? Hey Leah. While we're waiting for everyone to join, you can go ahead and please invite people who may be interested on tonight's live show or future live shows, and go ahead, you can click the invite button, or hi Ange, hey Gwenda, or you can click share button. I think there's probably a couple of different ways that you can invite people or share. Hi Michael, welcome. And there is also a little button there that'll say, hey Hannah, I hope Milani's feeling better. There's also a little button there that you can click that says be notified when Tanja Kraus Horsemanship is live. So you'll get all future notifications. Facebook will go ahead and send you one of those notifications that comes up on your screen to let you know that I'm live, if you want to be told every time I'm live. Obviously we do Monday Night Live, and that's the show. Hey Hillary. But I also go live every now and then when something comes to mind, or if I'm away or something like that and I get inspired to talk about something, I might go live. So go ahead and click that button if you want to know when I'm live, and Facebook will let you know that I'm on. So first thing, while everyone starts rolling in and joining and everything, I just want to say a big congratulations to Phil and Philip, who travelled up to Queensland on the weekend and competed at the Cowboy Dressage Queensland Championships. We're super happy with the way the team performed. Unfortunately, I didn't get to join them in Queensland, but they had a great time. The horses behaved really well, and they came home with a swagger of ribbons, which isn't the reason that we do it, but it's nice when it happens. So the boys did really well, so a big congratulations to them. And a big thank you to everyone that was up there supporting them. And, they've been seeing photos online and seeing, little comments and things like that. So thank you for all your support. We really appreciate that. Also, a big welcome to everyone who is currently doing the TKH 100 challenge. It's really exciting because we're up to about week 2 for a lot of people. They're sort of at their 14, 15, 16. I know Leah's at her 17th day. She posted in TKH Peeps tonight to say that she was on day 17, and she had a bit of a stack where she tripped over a cone, but that's okay. She's all fine, and the horse is fine, and all that sort of stuff. So it's been really, really great to hear all of your TKH 100 journey and listen to all of your ideas. And I know that those of you who are in the TKH Peeps group on Facebook, which is a group for people who have done courses before, I know those of you that are within that group, you'll be seeing all those notifications and seeing everything. And it's really turned into a really cool thing, because everyone is getting inspired and sharing ideas, and people are saying, oh, I've got that. I only had 5 minutes today, and I did what such and such did yesterday, and it's just turning into a really cool thing. Those of you who aren't in the TKH Peeps group because you haven't been able to join us at a clinic yet, feel free to post on the Tanja Kraus Horsemanship page. There's a lot of people posting on there about their TKH 100, and I certainly post my stuff over there. So please let us know how you're going, and use that hashtag TKH 100 so we can all find each other and keep supporting each other through the journey. So it's really exciting. So hi Greta and Helen, how you going? And Leah, I'm sure it was graceful. I'm sorry that I missed it, and I'm sure you didn't have a camera rolling at the time, which is unfortunate. So everyone, please let me know what you're doing for your TKH 100, what you did over the weekend. Go ahead and pop that in the comments while we're waiting for everyone to join. And Hey, Malcolm and Megan, how you going? Hey, Bindi. I'm glad it's like I'm right there, right in your lounge room. You can turn the mute button on. See, that's Phil's probably somewhere in the house watching me because he likes to be able to, turn the volume down. No, he's actually a little bit unwell at the moment, so he's probably sleeping. He's come home a little bit sick from camping in Queensland over the weekend. So that's a shame, but I'm sure he's going to recover really quickly. So that brings me anyway to our topic of the evening, which is cross-training. Are you doing it right? And I'm going to share with you the top 7 things that I think we need to ask ourselves when we're talking about cross-training in order to get the biggest benefit for us and our horses. Belinda's saying camping doesn't make you sick. Well, he's come home sick, Bindi, so that's evidence enough for me. I don't need any more evidence. I'll stick with my hotel room, so I'm just fine with that. Thank you. Gwenda, yeah, absolutely. They need to take a cup of cement. He needs to harden up a little bit. I'll pass that message on for sure. So tonight I'm going to share with you the 7 things that we need to ask ourselves when it comes to cross-training our horses to make sure that we're getting the biggest benefit that we can out of cross-training. Now, I'm a huge advocate of cross-training. I think it's really important for our horses. I think it's really important for humans. I myself, having been a competitor in the past and certainly now, and even teaching clinics every weekend can put a really high demand on your body and a high drain on your body. You're riding all the time and traveling all the time and all that sort of stuff. And cross-training is something that's really important to me to try and keep me as fit and as healthy as possible and keep me mentally in the game. So that's the same kind of benefits that we're after for our horses when it comes to cross-training. And that brings me to the first question, or the first thing that we need to consider when we're talking about cross-training for our horses is it complementary and beneficial to our horses? So it has to have a benefit in some way, mentally, physically, spiritually for our horses. Are we using our cross-training to develop respect? Are we using it to improve flexibility, which might be an issue across our horses? Is it improving our confidence? Is it simply for training or exposure or any of those things? Any of the little challenges that we face along the way in our horsemanship journey, I think that a lot of us would be able to sit there and go, give me a one-word answer, and feel free to shoot it into the comments. Give me a one-word answer of what you're finding challenging or what your horse is finding challenging at the moment. And that's what your cross-training should be trying to help at that point. So if I say to you, what are you struggling with at the moment? And you say confidence, then that's what your cross-training should be trying to help. Or if you say flexibility or suppleness or strength or focus or collection or engagement or fitness or any of the above, as whatever that answer is, you need to say, is my cross-training helping that thing that I'm struggling with at the moment? Because otherwise, why are we cross-training, I guess, is the answer, is the question there. So the second thing, and these are in no particular order, when I brainstorm about these evening Monday night live shows, I kind of just let it come to me and write it all down, and I don't really put it in any kind of structure. So don't think that these points that I'm making are in any particular order of importance, because they're not. They're just what came to me at the time. So the second thing is we need to make sure that we are not making our horses sore when we're cross-training. So for example, if you're a typical rider that, say, trains for 20 minutes, half an hour, 4 times a week in an arena, helping our horse on some dressage maneuvers or some working equitation maneuvers or some simple training, and then we go, Saturday I've got the day off, I'm going to go cross-training, and we take our horse on a 20k trail ride or a 5-hour trail ride, then we're going to make the horse sore in his muscles because he's not physically fit enough to go out and do a 4-hour trail ride when all we do is typically riding for 20 minutes, half an hour in the arena. So we need to consider, what is our cross-training what have we chosen to do for our cross training, and how can I do that in a way that is not going to make my horse too physically sore in his muscles. We all know that if the horses are, we all know ourselves rather, that if we're not used to doing something and then if we're not used to running and we go for a run, then the next day and the next day after that, we're going to feel it in our muscles. We're going to have that buildup of lactic acid. We're going to be sore and we're not going to be particularly motivated to go running again. Well, the same thing happens with our horses. The horses feel sore and they attribute that to the ride that they've just had with us. And so they're going to go ahead and say, well, that wasn't enjoyable for me, because now I'm physically sore walking around the paddock. So you can, even if you've chosen to go on a trail ride, I'm not saying don't go on a trail ride, but what I'm saying is, how can you make that trail ride a fun ride and a confident ride for the horse, and a ride that is not going to make the horse sore? So do you need to pepper it with more walking? Do you need, it's not necessarily the distance. If you go and bang out 20 Ks in, 6 hours, Megan and Malcolm can probably tell me a better, nice light ride of 20 kilometers is probably, depending on the terrain, is going to be between 4 and 6 hours. But if you go and bang out a 20K ride in 2 hours, then you've kind of hammered your horse. And if he's not ready for that, then he can, you're certainly going to make him sore. Glad you made it, Candy. Hello, welcome. Hey, Greta. One horse too forward and one horse not forward enough. So you'll have to change in your cross training when it comes to what you're doing for those horses to help improve those things. So the horse that's not forward enough, you might need to take him out on the trail, or you might need to take him down to the beach to try and, hey Nav, how you going? To try and create a desire of the horse wanting to go forward. And the horse that's not, that is too forward, you might need to bring him down into a smaller area and create the desire for him to not need to rush, which could also be a balance issue. So number 2, don't make the horse sore with your cross training. Otherwise it is going to backfire on you and it's not going to be beneficial. Hey Anna, welcome. I'm glad you're enjoying it. And Abby, I saw that you wrote a comment and I saw the word balance, but I didn't get to read the whole thing. So I'll definitely get back to that in the comments. Once it rolls past me, I can't get back to it, but I'll definitely address it in the comments. But you'll be cross-training to improve the horse's balance. That'll be your focus. So we can talk about that soon. So number 3 is make sure that your cross-training days, or some of your cross-training days, has fun in it. It's got to be fun for you and it's got to be fun for the horse. So I know that we just spoke about your cross training having a purpose and helping with maybe some things that you're finding challenging at this point in your training, but you also are putting cross training in. The other reason that we do cross training with our horses is so that they to keep them inspired and to keep them motivated and to keep it a little bit different and to keep it fun for them. So what we want to do is make sure that we do some cross training days where it's low key, low pressure, and it's just something that you'll both enjoy. So that might be a walk through the bush or the forest, or it might be a walk along the beach, or it might be leading the horse down the beach and letting him have a swim or whatever, I don't know, but something that's going to be nice and mild and fun for both of you. So that's number 3, making sure that there's some kind of fun in your cross training as well. That's the mental side of it for your horse. Then number 4, that brings me to number 4, which is having some challenging / stimulating cross-training days for your horse. So cross-training doesn't have to be a ride on the beach or a ride out the bush. You might go and take your dressage horse and say, well, I'm going to try a little bit of jumping today, which is going to be a little bit challenging for the horse. I'm not saying go and whack the jumps up to 80 centimeters or even 60 centimeters or even 40 centimeters. I'm saying go ahead and lay some poles out and put a couple of cross rails out and let your dressage horse go, oh, what, this is different. I haven't done jumping before. So go and pop him over some things. So it's just something different that allows him to be mentally stimulated and a little bit challenged. I'm not talking about setting the horse up for failure. I don't want to challenge him so much that he's, hey Karen, oh that's a shame that the internet's not great. It can be difficult. I think you need a pretty strong internet to watch the live feeds, I'm guessing. That brings me to number 5 is set them up for success. Okay, so even if you go and take your horse out of the arena that's, you know, your dressage horse that's in the arena all the time and go and take him on a cattle muster, you've got to set him up for success. Don't go put him in with some Black Angus that are going to chase you out of the paddock, because then it's not going to be beneficial for either one of you. It's going to be a scary cross-training thing. You want to go and put him in a little, you know, maybe move the potty calves from one paddock to another, because they're going to run away from him, and that's going to give him, it's going to make him feel good, it's going to give him some confidence, and it's going to stimulate him mentally. So set your horse up for success in his cross training. That's number 5. We always want our horses walking out of our whatever we're doing with them on that day with their head held high, and we want them to think, man, I nailed that. That was fun, it was interactive, and we want the horse to enjoy themselves. So always set your horse up for success, not failure. So a little bit challenging, you know, humans are the same. We like something that's a little bit challenging, but if we fail at that thing that was a little bit challenging, it's not as fun. You know, we walk out of there and say, oh, I probably won't try that again because, you know, I didn't succeed, so what's the point of doing it again? Typically would be our reaction. So it brings me to number 6, which is cross training. When we're talking about, I know that I personally have a lot of people come to my clinics, and only my local clinics at the moment, so my home ground clinics are on a monthly basis, or pretty much a monthly basis. And then I know that I've got clinics, say on the Gold Coast or down in Sydney, or you know, in North Queensland or wherever that's away, that I only get to a couple of times a year, sometimes 3 times a year, sometimes 4 times, sometimes only, you know, once or twice when you're talking about going to America or the UK or whatever. So what that brings me to is cross training when you're talking about cross coaching. So a lot of people who come to my clinics, for example, on the Gold Coast, might attend, you know, they might get private lessons, or they might have a regular coach that they go to once a month or something like that. And then every 3 months they'll go ahead and come to my clinics, which is, you know, which is cool. It's fine. But what we need to be aware of is making sure that it's not necessarily, it doesn't have to be the same training, because each coach and each trainer is going to offer you different things, but it needs to align. The philosophy needs to align, and the ethics need to align. So what I'm trying to say when it comes to that is, say you've got modern training techniques versus traditional training techniques versus classical training techniques versus you know, horsemanship techniques. So that's 4 different styles of training, so to speak, or 4 different categories. And I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. I'm just trying to put something out there so we can sort of think about, you know, who we're training with, or who we've been going to clinics and things like that, and comparing them and going, do the philosophies align? It doesn't necessarily have to be the same training, but the philosophies and the ethics have to align. So what I'm talking about when it comes to modern training and traditional training techniques would be your typical, the lineage would be the traditional English lineage that came from, you know, taking horses to war and then bringing them into the dressage arena to display those techniques. And modern and traditional fairly well complement each other. So modern and traditional training techniques, you're gonna have your trainers that are, you know, riding the horses into the contact, or they're asking you to drive the horse forward into the contact, or drive the horse forward into the hand. They're probably going to be using, like for example, maybe drop nose bands, or tie downs, or side reins, or draw reins, or any of those kind of things. In those 2 kind of categories. And I don't need like a million messages or comments where you say, I train with someone and they don't use that stuff. That's fine, that's great. I'm just giving an example of modern and traditional. You'll probably find a lot of the same ideologies within those 2. Whereas when you come over to classical training, classical dressage training and horsemanship training, when you follow that lineage back, they have derived from very similar places, and they've derived from very similar histories alongside each other. So when you start to talk about those two styles of training, or those two categories of training, they're complementary to each other. They might not be the same, but what I'm saying is that you probably aren't going to find a horsemanship or a classical trainer using tie downs or using side reins or putting a drop nose band on a horse or any of those kind of things, because it's not in the history of that style of teaching. So if you're cross training and you're going to different trainers and different clinics and things like that, what you need to do is find clinics and trainers that are within those similar categories or that share similar philosophies. And like I said, I'm not trying to generalize or categorize anyone, and I'm not using a modern dressage as an example, and then someone's going to send me a message and say, oh, I train with such and such and they teach modern dressage but they don't do that. Okay, that's fine. That means that their philosophy perhaps aligns with those other philosophies. I'm not saying that if you might find a horsemanship or a classical person that might put a drop nose band on or might put side reins on. I don't know. But what I'm saying is that make sure that if you're going to this person over here and then this person over here, those philosophies have to align, and they don't have to align with each other. They need to align with your philosophy. What do you want to do with your horse? What are you comfortable with? How do you want to train your horse? So what you need to do is make a decision about, well, these are my ideologies. This is what I think is right for my horse. This is the path I want to take. And then you need to find trainers and things like that align with what you want to teach. We can find a trainer for everything, and whatever you're comfortable with, that's your journey. That's what you want to. That's the way that you want to do it, and that's fine. So what I'm saying is, make sure that all of that aligns with you holistically and your horse, of course. That brings me to point number 7, which is that because it spins the horse's heads out? Well, yeah, absolutely. Because one week you're trying to ask the horse to do particular maneuvers and things like that using, for example, pressure release or just encouraging the horse to take a shape or a frame or something like that. And the horse is trying to find his body and he's trying to feel his way. And then the next week, you go ahead and put him in a lunging system that ties him all together, and the horse, he gets stuck in this system, and then the next week he doesn't have the system. So it's inconsistent for the horse, and the horse doesn't understand what's going on, and when there's no consistency in the training, then there's no permanence in the learning. So that brings me to number 7, which is making sure that you're cross-training regularly. If you just do it once in a blue moon, it's not really going to be beneficial to the horse, because doing it once a month is better than never doing it at all, but doing it once a week is going to have far more benefit than not. So it's similar to, I know I bring everything back to the human quite often, but it's similar to our humans. A lot of people work all week and then we get the weekend off, work all week, get the weekend off. It's that little bit of a break. And typically the weekend is when we try and go and do something, or a lot of us spend time with our horses on the weekend, and then we go back to work the following week. So it's similar to, that's the kind of thing that you want to do with your horse. Instead of just giving him a day off where he just wanders around the paddock, why don't you go ahead and slot in a day that is cross-training for him? So it's stimulating and it's interesting and it's keeping him, keeping his mind connected to you, I guess. So regular cross-training is going to give you the most benefit. So if I can just recap those 7 points that we spoke about, and The first one is that it must be complementary or beneficial in some way, and the best way to make it complementary to the horse's training or beneficial is to establish what you're finding challenging at the moment. It might be flexibility, it might be confidence, it might be forward, it might be balance, it could be anything. Go ahead and figure out the one thing that is a challenge to you and your horse at the moment, and go ahead and pick some sort of cross training that's going to help with that. Number 2, do not make the horse sore at cross training. So don't go ahead and put him in a 20k endurance ride when all he's been doing is 5-minute little stints in the arena, or don't go and canter him down the beach for 3 hours in deep heavy sand, because it's not going to be beneficial for him. Make sure that you have fun cross training days. That's fun for him, it's fun for you, it's low pressure, low key, it's just the two of you out there enjoying each other's company. Number 4, have challenging or stimulating days. So teaching him something new. So you might go ahead and take your show jumping horse and take him through a working equitation obstacle course or something like that. Something a little bit different. Maybe you'll take your cowboy dressage horse and take him out on out on a muster or out on a trail. Something like that. Something that's new, something that's different, something that's going to keep the horse engaged. Number 5 is set the horse up for success. Make sure that the horse, hey Rebecca, how are you? Make sure that you set the horse up for success. Don't try and push them too far out of their comfort zone. So you might, the first time that you do some kind of cross training, you might take them to a new place, and you might do, you might just do some ground exercises in a new area. That might be cross training for you. You want to make it interesting for the horse, but you want the horse to leave the session feeling good about the session, feeling interested in the session, feeling motivated by the session. Okay. Cross training, when it comes to training with different people or getting lessons from different people, things like that, make sure that their ethics and their philosophies align with the way that you want to be with your horse. So, make a decision on what sits with you, what techniques sit well with you, what you're happy to use as training methods and methodologies for your horse, and go ahead and find coaches and clinicians and do the training that aligns with that philosophy, and make sure it's consistent, because if you change from week to week, then the horse is going to become confused. I'm not saying don't have a show jumping instructor and don't have a dressage instructor. That's two separate disciplines. Both of those people might be teaching you those disciplines in the same way from a philosophical point of view. Okay. And make sure that your cross training is regular. Okay, so I recommend once a week. Go ahead and change up the sessions and things like that for your horses. Pardon me, sorry. So they're the 7 tips when it comes to making sure that your cross training is beneficial for you and your horse. And now I'm just going to talk about some of the different things that you might do, just some ideas. So if anyone's got any different ideas or something like that when it comes to cross training, go ahead and pop it in the comment box, so you can share it with everybody and so I can read it. Trust where you and your horse can manage the cross training and not what others may want to do. Absolutely, Nav. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. So that goes with, if you're going out with a group, you might go out with a group on a trail ride, and they all might say, or down the beach, and they all might say, oh, we're going to canter from one end of the beach to the other, which is 5Ks. And you might say, well, my horse isn't fit. And you've got to trust yourself and make that decision for you and your horse. So I'm just going to go ahead and run through some of the cross training. Hi, Rebecca. I just wanted to say about Rebecca, everyone there is Superlicious Treats, and my guys are really enjoying their Superlicious Treats from Rebecca. We're very honoured to be ambassadors for Superlicious Treats, and so it's been really fun with my guys. We've been doing a heap of stuff with, I don't do treat training, as a lot of you would know, but they certainly look forward to seeing me when I arrive at the paddock now to do some training sessions with them. and they get the treats before and after. So we're loving it. Thank you so much, Rebecca. Monique, big red ball while riding, stretching down, pushing the ball. Yeah, absolutely. So that's a really cool little thing. You can just go ahead, and that's something that you could do even in your arena. So if you're in your arena and you don't have time to go somewhere to do some cross training, yeah, go ahead and chuck a big red ball in there, or you don't have to get a red one. Go ahead and put a ball in there and see if your horse wants to, experiment with pushing it around, or see if you can push it around with the horse. Something like that is just going to give you that little bit of a different focus and help, keep the horse interested and stimulated within the arena. So I've just got a few written down here, which would be your ground exercises for those guys that have come to my courses. We've got our 10 normal ground exercises. You can go ahead and revisit them for cross training. Your ground training, so that's our more advanced lateral work, but from the ground. So that's training our horses to do our lateral, so shoulder in, quarters in, that sort of stuff on the ground. I call it technique before load. So the load is the rider. So the way that we can help our horses just become stronger and more supple and able to use their bodies a little bit better is to be teaching them those kind of maneuvers without our saddle and us interfering with them first. We've got our exposure training, so that's where we introduce our horse to new things like the ball, or you can go ahead and introduce water, or streamers or clippers or anything like that, anything new and different. You can go ahead and do a whole session on exposure training. You might not even need to get on the horse. So that's probably a really good point I need to make when it comes to cross training. Cross training doesn't mean that you've got to go for a ride. Cross training may mean that you're going to go ahead and spend a session with your horse doing something that you don't normally do. So it might be exposure training, introducing your horse to something different. It might be, going for a lead walk around your paddock, or going for a lead trail, or taking him for a walk down the street, or something like that. Liberty. I love liberty for cross training. It's one of my favorite things to do with my horses, and I think that they really enjoy it. I think they love it when I walk out in the paddock and I don't have anything with me, and I sort of interact with them and ask them to do stuff because, they know that they're at liberty. They know they can walk off at any time, but they really don't. They like to interact with us. They like to interact with me, and it's really low pressure and interesting and exciting for them. And then you've got your different disciplines. So even if you've got a cow working horse, you can go ahead and, take him jumping, or go on a trail ride, or, tee up someone. I hope I've got a good face on, Nav, if I've frozen. I hope I look good. That's the most important thing. You can go ahead and tee up someone that you might know with some cows that'll let you go in the paddock. Again, not crazy cows that are going to run at you, but little cows that are just going to walk away from you. Go ahead and pop your horse on some cattle if he's never seen cattle before. It'd be interesting for him. Be careful. You might have to lead him in there. You might have to, make sure that he's not going to freak out about cows. Getting on a mechanical cow can be really fun and different for a lot of people that don't do it, and a lot of horses. Dressage, if you're a jumper or a camp drafter, go ahead and knock out a dressage test or a cowboy dressage test. Working equitation, you've got your obstacle course and that. You can just set up a little obstacle course at home. It doesn't have to be anything major. You go for a beach ride, take the horses swimming. Like I say, put your suggestions in the boxes. Abby's saying, if you do something regularly, when does it cease to actually be cross training? That's a really good question. So, liberty for you and Storm, Abby, because it is typically it's part of your routine. I would not consider liberty cross training. That is part of your routine. So you would need to go and find something else to do in terms of a cross training day. So if you do something regularly, so at the start of the suggestions, I had ground exercises down. I know a lot of my guys will be like, I do ground exercises every day. Well, that's not cross training. So you need to go ahead and either introduce different ground exercises that maybe you don't do all the time. So instead of doing circles, do sideways or whatever. Or if you normally do ground exercises, go ahead and do your laterals or whatever. But it's got to be something that you don't do all the time. And then, you know, that once a week, something really different. So you might go, you know, for the next 4 weeks, you might go for a beach ride this week, and then a little trail ride next week, and then a cattle muster the week after, and then a working equitation obstacle course the week after that, and then back to a beach ride. Or, you know, you might do something like that. So like I say, put your suggestions in the box, and anyone who's got any ideas when it comes to cross training, or maybe something that I haven't mentioned, and we can all share those ideas together. And as per usual, there is an information sheet available on tonight's live. So if you would like that information sheet sent out to you, which will have a few suggestions on it. Shane, gymnastics with poles, that's really cool. I really like that for a lot of flat work horses, so dressage horses and show horses and things like that, that we don't do a lot of gymnastic exercises with. I love poles. That's why we're really big fans of cowboy dressage, because you've got that beautiful challenge court, and it's got the poles in it, it's got the box in it, it's got the cones in it. So it is that little bit more interactive and gymnastic for the horses. So really cool. Sarah's saying poles and grids. Good to see you back, Nav. Yeah, absolutely, poles and grids. If you carriage driving, I don't know that we'll all be going out carriage driving, Hillary, but I like where your head's at. Hillary does carriage driving with her horses, so absolutely that would be something that would be a little bit, not necessarily different for her horses, but you know, it might be for some of her horses that don't regularly get driven. Carriage driving would absolutely be something that's a little bit different. So that's really cool. So yeah, Hillary's saying it's a joke. Don't all run out and try and, you know, get behind your horse in a carriage. It's not a good idea. There is an information sheet available, and I will put as many of these suggestions on it. I've got a big list here, and you guys are starting to put your suggestions down, so absolutely that'll be on the list. If you want that information sheet, please send me a private message, because it is just easier for me tomorrow when I'm emailing everyone to just cut the email address out of the private message and go ahead and flick it straight into my send box. Thank you so much for watching tonight. I'm really happy that you all joined me and you were all commenting and things like that. Rupert would look fantastic in a carriage, but he'd have to have really teeny little, you know, little carriage out behind him. If anyone is wanting to know information about upcoming clinics, as I said, I do travel around everywhere. I'm probably going to be close to you. We head to America in September. So we even go internationally. So go ahead and send me a private message if you would like information about courses. But I pretty much have a course on every single weekend. And my website is horsemanshipforperformance.com. You can go ahead and find the list of events there. So thank you all so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. If anyone's got any suggestions for lives, what you'd like to see on a live show, please let me know and I will endeavour to cover it for you. I don't have anything scheduled in Adelaide yet, Lynn, but the other day I did get a couple of inquiries, so feel free to send me a private message and we can try and get something down there for you. I would love to come back to Adelaide. I think it's beautiful. I've only been there once before for a few days, but it was lovely. As I said, any suggestions for live shows that you want to see, please let me know. Tanja saying that she missed it. Anyone who missed it, it will be up on the replay. As soon as we finish, I just save it to my phone, but then I post it, so it will be up on my Tanja Kraus Horsemanship page as a replay pretty much straight away. And then next week, we're going to talk about nervous horses. We'll be doing. So thank you all again so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Please, comment, send me messages. I love to hear your feedback. It's what keeps us coming back on Mondays at 7 o'clock. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you all have a fantastic week with your horses, and I'll catch you next Monday.